Making comics, making comics. Making panels. Making panels. Um, Panels are so important to the process that people don't even know. There's so many levels to panels that nobody talks about. And so, like, that's a panel. That's a panel. It's a panel. No, it's just panels, right? But panels help you develop the flow. Panels help you develop the pace. Panels decide what's important. Uh, they help you misdirect. They make things exciting. And then it's just so much. So I'm gonna start like this. If you're a beginner, it's something that I'm gonna use terminology that I use for myself personally, right? So, is there like official terminology that professionals use that's different from what I'm saying? Probably, but this is the terminology that I use. So this rectangular shape, this isn't a panel. This represents a page. All right. So there's something that I call levels, and so a level is basically from top to bottom the number of degrees of panels you break the page up into. So let's say I do this. That's panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. 1, 2, 3. This is 3 levels. Okay? Let me erase all that. No, let me go back. Now, in this 3 levels, I don't have to break it up like that. I could do it like this. I still got 3 levels. Let me take it back. I still got 3 levels. I can do this. I can put this here. I can put this here. And I can leave that like that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 panels, but it's still 3 levels, right? And you want to get creative, I can do this. I can do this, right? Then I can do this. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 panels, 3 levels, right? So you follow me. So if you're a beginner and you're just starting making comics, and let's say you're young and you're giving your comics to people who don't really read comics, or maybe you're building an audience, so a lot of people you engage might not be into comics. They might just be supporting your work. Don't exceed 3 levels, okay? It keeps it simple. The pacing is easy. And don't get complicated. People won't get lost. I'm babysitting a cat, and it's needy. So you might hear some meowing in the background and whatnot. That's neither here nor there. So, and the neat thing that you can do is if you're starting out, and let's say you stick to that rule, stick to 3 layers, right? Because this is 4 layers right here, right? And I can do anything I want in those 4 layers. I can add as many panels as I want. See? Now this is a lot of panels, right? It's 4 layers, but it's a lot of panels. How many panels? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 panels within, a 4-layer frame, right? That's kind of complicated. What's going on? Everything's going from right to left. These are basic panel shapes. Pretty easy to read and follow, For some people it is, some people it's not. And depending on what you got in the panels, it might be overly detailed. It might be some movement, some action going on. Sometimes people get confused. They don't know what's going on. Especially depending on if there's some lettering, some word bubbles, some dialogue, what's going on. So I say if you're a beginner, stick to 3 panels. But something neat you can do is, as you go to later issues or later volumes, when you see that you are getting a consistent fan base or audience, so let's say Johnny never read comics before, I did a comic book and I stuck to 3 levels in that comic book. In the next book, I might do a couple pages with 4 levels. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of teaching Johnny how to read comics, because I'm starting off with simple levels and simple panels, and as the book progresses, I would add more levels and more complex panel work, but I'll never overexceed Johnny's ability. I'm gonna teach Johnny how to read comics, basically, with the level of work I put in from issue 1, volume 1, to issue 2, volume 2, so on and so forth. Because you can get into something like this. Now, this is a page right here. Oh, let me go back. So let's say this is a page right here, and I've done this. I went and did panels like this. Like, I put a circle right here, and I've gone, that's a panel, 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 and that's a panel. Even you could say, these are panels. Now what's going on right here? You got the circle in the middle. Where do you start? It depends on what the story wants to do, what the artist wants to do. I can start right here and go around and end up there. Or I can start right here, go around, end up here. Or I can start right here, go back around the opposite direction, and end up here. And that's in these directions. These are directions of movement and focal points. So for somebody looking at this page, the circle itself is a focal point. So they might go there first. So you can start there and end there. And depending on the level of reader you have, like, they might get that. Me, even as a advanced comic book reader, sometimes I see panel work and it takes me a second to figure out, oh, they're going this direction and this is happening. And I think it's cool. I don't mind that mystery. I don't mind the extra thought it takes to figure that out. I enjoy that. Some people don't. Some people feel like, okay, you're wasting my time, you're confusing me, blah, blah, blah. But if you work them up to that, then it kind of builds their skill naturally. So then they kind of learn to enjoy it, or it's not that difficult for them to figure it out. So, things like that. Like, even though it might not follow movement, it might be something focused right here, and then random shots that don't involve movement. These all might be facial expressions or scenes of destruction where this is the focal point. But then maybe the facial expression is here in the circle, and these are scenes of destruction that's going around the person that's looking on. Like whatever you want to do. And things of that nature. I want to talk about 2 big artists. Everybody talks about them. They're my favorite right now. These guys are rock stars in the game. Let's talk about Daniel Warren Johnson and James Herron, and I feel like their styles have similar aesthetics, though most people can tell the difference. And Daniel Warren Johnson, he's really a rock star in comics right now. James Herron is kind of like your favorite artist's favorite artist. So one thing like something that I used to love to do, like I loved a lot of panels. I loved a lot of layers. Like I would go crazy. I would go one. So that's 2 layers. That's 3 layers. 4, 5. I would do something like this. Then I wouldn't leave it like that. I would go crazy. Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. We're gonna leave that there. We're gonna do this, bam, bam, bam. Then I would go even crazier and be like, okay, that's in there. That's in there. That, like, just insane. I would go crazy, right? And all that's panel work, things in there. And because I loved a lot of movement, I grew up reading manga. There's a lot of movement in manga, and they would like stretch out for pages a fight scene or a chase scene, or like sometimes even just a conversation where a lot of movement was in the conversation. There'll be a panel with showing the footsteps of a person or them leaning on something. You'll get a close up of their hand grabbing something or being fidgety or elbow or whatever. And so I loved doing that, and so I would put all these panels. But reading Mike Mignola, James Herron, and Daniel Warren Johnson, looking at their work and the way they displayed movement with their panels, it really taught me to be efficient, and it taught me the importance of subtlety, and also it taught me the importance of leaving things up to the viewers, the audience's imagination. So one thing I noticed about these 3 people, because initially I mentioned 2, but I had to throw Mike Mignola in there because he kind of does things the same way, is when they're doing panels on a page, I can't say this is always true. It's been true for the works that I've seen from these artists, is they never exceed 4 levels. I haven't read everything they've made. Mike Mignola did a lot of work for Marvel. I read all the Hellboy stuff that he did with his hand, the art that he drew, even some of the stuff that he didn't do. But I'm talking about Mike Mignola as an artist. I haven't seen everything James Herron has done, nowhere near, or Daniel Warren Johnson. They do a lot of work for a lot of different people. I've seen some of their stuff. It's a lot I haven't seen. I want to see everything, but the stuff I saw, they never exceeded 4 levels. Now, it might be a number of panels in there. You could easily do this to maximize panels. Now you got 4, 8, 12, 16. Now you got 16 panels, but it's still 4 levels. So there's a bit of control, and then when you got straight panels, there's a level of simplicity there. And there's another thing that I've seen those guys do is, like, they don't get too crazy with the panels like I do. They keep their panels simple, but they put a lot of craziness in the panel, a lot of movement, a lot of motion. But like, even with let's treat this like a single panel down here. Even with like a single panel. So what I saw in all three artists, and I don't know if they learned this from each other, or I can't call it, but so let me get back in the red. So this fist is gonna hit this face. This is the face. This is the fist. It's cocked back, right? They would do a lot of stuff with movement where they would choose transitional poses versus main poses. So like, it's a rule in animation, the rule of threes, and when you're doing something in animation, they got the main animators and they got in-betweeners. So the main animators might be a handful of people. It might be one person. And then you might have 100 in-betweeners. And so the main animator might come up with 3 poses. The main 3 poses. So if it's a punch, it's the initial cock back, the middle of the follow through, which may be like a blur of like demonstrating the speed of the motion, and then the point of impact. And then any movement in between those 3, the in-betweeners, they'll take care of that. But a lot of in-between movement is like what I would consider transitional movement. And what I've seen these 3 guys do is focus on transitional movement sometimes more than like the coup de grace, than the main poses. And it displays a level of movement without using a lot of panels. See, what I used to do is I'll focus on all these panels and, okay, there's the foot running. There's the first foot. And then it picks up. And there's the second foot. Then we cut to the face. You know, this person's excited. You know, and then it's like maybe it's a jump. A land. Then you see that. So they jump, they roll, they land, and you see the hand right here, right? And then right here, you see him going back to running, and continue so forth and so on, you know. So all the panels have a point. It shows the movement. It's a lot going on. It's very exciting. And see how it grabs attention of the eye? I'm up here. And it jumps right here because this panel is just bulging out of the panels, you know, and it takes, this is useful. This isn't bad. But then they would take these 4 panels and so break it down. So where I took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels, they'll put that on these 4 panels. And they'll take some things out. Like, maybe I don't need both feet, you know? I could just do like, I don't need to illustrate that. I could use 1 foot. Then I could jump to the initial jump move. You know? And then I don't need the hand. I could just stick with the roll. Or maybe I would use the hand. I would choose the roll over the hand. For that, like that's the landing. And then going to the run. And it takes less panels to convey the same message. And the dynamic nature of the in-between shots. The in-between shots gives you awkward posing. It's not standard, you know, dynamic superhero posing, the landing, the one hand up, one knee up, fly. You know, it's like moments in between those actions that look awkward, that look weird, that draw the eye, that kind of like engage the reader in a different way. And it's interesting, but also what I notice in my own head, subconsciously, your mind fills in the gaps around the in-between. So if I show a funky movement in one panel, I might not have to show all this stuff around it because it leaves room for your imagination to think about, okay, how that person might have jumped to get in this position. What might they be jumping over? Why would they jump like that if they're going from rooftop to rooftop? Or if they're climbing a roof and then they just made a jump to get to the top, or who knows, whatever, you know? But that's what I learned from those guys. And I try to mix it up. I'm not, I've been reducing panels a lot, but I haven't given up on this. But like I said, I do follow my own practice, my own advice. So when I start a book, I try to keep it as simple as possible, even though I might be tempted to go crazy. And as I go further in that series, then I advance in the level of panel work. Because I know if people are reading from book one to however many books, chapters, volumes, what have you, the books will kind of educate them on the panel work and take them through the more difficult panels. So there won't be an issue, oh, I don't understand what's going on. And then it adds a level of variety and excitement that when you get in later chapters, later pages, later books, as you see these different type of panels, it's like, oh, they were simple last time. Oh, he's picking it up. Things are different. Oh, how's this working? They're investing in the characters in the story. They'll take time to think about the panels in the order and things of that nature. You can get very creative with panel work. Panel work is one of my favorite things to do in drawing comics. When I discovered the sophistication of panel work, it just brought me to a whole nother level. And I was just blown away to see what others were doing. And I couldn't wait to do things myself. So, this will be Making Comics Blackboard entry. We could talk more about panels. This is a discussion. This is the topic that I've held back, but I've always wanted to get into, and I can never say enough about just getting into the panels. So it's more than just a box and putting the picture in the box. Panels really are like shots of action. So you really are like a film director, and you're picking your shots. Except you control, as an artist, you control every element of the shot. What's in the shot, the background, the level of movement, emotion, any and everything. It's there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And I can understand why a lot of directors may choose to storyboard their own movies. Because just to have that aspect of like, I'm creating all these shots beforehand, and everything changes. Like if I do a rough draft of panels and making shots, before they make it to the final page of what will be published, shots will change. Some shots get removed, some shots stay the same, some things get altered. Everything's subject to change. That's a golden rule of mine. Everything is subject to change because when you go through the process, you develop a process, you go through the process, you'll see how things that work in your mind don't work on paper. Oh, another thing. Let me say this before I switch off. Use word balloons, right? So if you have a bit of action, whether it's high action, whether it's movement of characters in conversation, car chase, anything that involves movement or even movement of the panels, use the word balloons to guide people. So that's the first word balloon. I'll put the second here. Here. I might put this one here. 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 You get what I'm getting at? So the word, as you read, is going to take you across all of the action and where you need to be. So it's going to help you follow the eye. Well, it's going to tell the eye where to go. Your eye follows the balloon. The balloon is moving through the action in the way it should be read. So don't just put your balloons in empty spaces. When you're rough drafting your artwork, make room for balloons. Rough draft the balloon in the dialogue and artwork. I used to write scripts for the comics. I stopped doing that because it's a longer process. If I have somebody else drawing, I'll write a script. But if I'm doing the artwork myself, I forego that process and I write dialogue inside the rough draft. And like everything's subject to change. So the dialogue would change. It'll change from what's in my head to what's in the rough draft to what's in the second rough to the finalized pages. It's because sometimes when you get there, some don't look right or it don't sound the same, or if you change a panel, it don't go with that. You got to change it, and everything's subject to change. So there we go. That's all I got to say about panels at the moment. We can do a part 2 at any time. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you very much. You guys have a blessed day.